Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a special Saturday night edition of the Monsters Den. I know we normally do this on Thursday nights, but we have someone who appeared on the channel once a couple of years ago, writer, director, producer Terry Wickham, who is getting ready to work on a brand new horror film that he wants to tell everybody about. So we figure we'll do a little Saturday evening preview on what's going to be called The Beginning of the End, right, Terry? So welcome, Terry. How are you doing?
Thank you, Pete. Thank you for having me on. Yes, it was a great time a couple years ago. I really enjoyed being on with you and Martin both. That was great.
Yep, very cool. So Terry has done a couple films to date so far, right? So we got Double Vision, Devil's Fire, and Abandon, I believe, are the other three films you've worked on, right?
Yeah, so actually more than that, but the ones, Devil's Five had three movies. There were five movies within it, and I directed three of them. So technically, they weren't just Devil's Five. So you had the Devil's Five, which we call the wraparound, which starred Ralph Sheepers from Primal Fear,
Yep.
and then Veronica Freeman from Benedictine was also in that, and then the next movie was called Abandon. And then the last segment was called Stash of the three I made for that feature. Double Vision came out, actually last year, and that was a psychological thriller. And before that, I made a movie back in the late 90s called Evil Streets, which also was an anthology. It's easier to make small movies than big movies.
Sure.
And that had two movies I directed called Stock with Serena Lee, the big boob legend, and had music by Voodoo Storm, one of Long Island's own metal bands. And the other movie is called The Downfall of Johnny Garrett with Michael Knight, who was a guitar player, kind of like Joe Satriani.
Gotcha, gotcha. So if you can't tell, so Terry is not only a movie buff and a horror movie buff, but he's also a metal fan, right? So like let's kind of combine the best of both worlds here. Let's make some horror movies and get some cool music. And the brand new film, The Beginning of the End, also is kind of tied to music. So it's going to be starring Ron Keel, right? Plays a role in the film. Melody Portnoy, who's the daughter of Mike Portnoy. Everybody here on the channel knows Mike and his daughter Melody. And the film is going to be scored by Michael Romeo from Symphony X, correct?
That's correct. And Mike, those who don't know this about Mike, Mike is probably as into John Williams and Hans Zimmer as he is Dimebag Darrell and Yngwie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's weird because when I talk to Mike about scores, he's like, when I mentioned that there might be a metal song or a hard rock song, he's like, dude, that's what I do for a living. If you get put something in, it better be really good. Because he goes, that's what I do. But he's like, let's not cheapen it. Let's make sure that we keep it serious, scary, horror, but there will be one metal song in my episode that we're crowdfunding for, and that's by Mean Streak, the all-female thrash band. And kind of came naturally because I was talking to the ladies about their album, and that's actually how Melody came up in consideration for a part because I was talking to Marlene Portnoy, and I said, "Well, I want to talk to someone from the band, but I'm auditioning actors right now." She's like, "Oh my God, my daughter's an actress," and that led to an audition with her, and she ended up being amazing. And the truth is, Pete, Dream Theater's been my favorite band since '92. I mean, that's straight out. And I didn't just cast her when she said that. Like, I didn't just give her for that reason. I had to see her perform.
Sure.
Um, but she ended up being great. And there was actually a scene before I knew she was doing it where the character sings this little creepy lullaby, and Melody's actually a singer. So it worked out like so perfectly. And I was looking for a slight 20 something female, kind of small. And she's 5 feet tall and she weighs like 110, 105 pounds. So it ended up being perfect.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us a little bit about the beginning and the end. So some of the information you sent me, comparisons to things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and whatnot. So of course I'm intrigued because that's one of my favorite horror films of all time. So tell us a little bit about what this movie, what entails here, and what people can expect from it.
Yeah, so what I really was wanting to do was I had been trying to make a ghost story for a couple years called Anomaly, and I just couldn't raise the money. I shot a teaser trailer for it. Ron Kill was actually in that as well, and Mike Romeo scored it. You guys could see it on my YouTube channel, Terry Wickham, at Terry Wickham or whatever. But we couldn't get quite the money, and I was frustrated. And Pete, I'm sure you understand this as a creative person. I have to make movies because I don't work on other people's films. I'm a writer, director, producer. I'm not an actor. I'm not an editor, though I could be if I wanted to. And so I said, I can't go another year without making a film. And so I said, instead of trying to do a 90-minute film, Why don't I do a 20-minute movie again, which I've done before? And it's easier to get the resources, and maybe people work for little to no money. And so when I thought about that, I said, I'll recruit a couple other directors. We'll team up together and release it as a feature film. And I thought, what do I want to tell? So I want it to be about people killing each other because that's the lowest cost to do. You know, aliens, monsters, werewolf, vampires, that's all money. And we don't really usually have money. So I thought people. So I talked to a friend of mine named David Melanson up in Massachusetts, really bright guy. I said, David, what do you think could be a good reason to kill people? He goes, oh, AI. AI could create fake news, text messages, control your smart car, your smart home, all these numerous things. And it clicked with me because it's modern, it's current, it's actually real, it's in play. And so the movies aren't necessarily about computers, but it's how AI could use things to make you get violent. So my episode, I was the first to write it. I wrote it before I recruited any other directors. Um, so I thought I want to do something nasty. I want to do something really brutal. And I thought back to Tobe Hooper's first film. And it wasn't necessarily a guy with a chainsaw or a human face, mask, or cannibals. But what I thought of was that unrelenting, brutal feel. And I also thought of Wes Craven's first film, Last House on the Left.
Left field.
Yeah, how that was comparable. It was brutal. It was crude, didn't really look good, didn't really was a great movie per se making wise, but I liked the way it made you feel. It emotionally felt real. And there was another two things. Orson Welles had the radio broadcast back in the late 30s of War of the Worlds. Obviously, I wasn't alive during the time, but I heard about the panic it created on a mass scale. People thought it was real, aliens coming down, etc. And I thought, well, maybe I could try to do that with this brutal feel and then kind of make it look like a John Carpenter siege movie. And I like to flip things. I like this. I like if you saw Double Vision, it's on Tubi. Anyone in the world could watch it for free. And I actually get paid more if you watch it on Tubi for free than if you pay $4.99 to rent it on Amazon. So definitely go to Tubi. Anyway, I just thought let's combine those things. Let's shoot widescreen like Carpenter. Let's do anamorphic. And that's kind of how it created. And I wrote it over the course of about a month. And I was listening to the movie Don't Breathe, the Fede Alvarez film, which I love. And I was trying to create that realistic crime, definitely horror feel. And it's not what you would expect. I literally in the 20 minutes, it flips so many times, you'll be pretty shocked. It's brutal.
So this is going to be another kind of like anthology film, right? So how many different stories are you going to have in this film?
Originally, we are going to have five. I recruited four other directors. One of the guys didn't have a good enough idea. He left in February. I recruited those guys back in January. And so he left. And the four other directors, all of us said, we don't need a fifth. Let's do four. And then actually 2 weeks ago, one of the directors said he just doesn't have a good enough idea. And I kind of expected it because whenever we were having our Zoom meetings once a week, this guy would never actually show his video picture. And I took that as he wasn't committing to us even.
Yeah.
And I knew this guy for like 7, 8 years as a filmmaker, and he made a pretty big movie, which was called Itsy Bitsy. His name's Micah Gallo. So I just thought Micah was not going to commit. He liked us, and I think he respected all of us. But I kind of said to the other guys, maybe about a month ago, I said, look, I think Micah's not going to come through. I said, no knock to him, but I am preparing to do another film. I always take the heavy load. I did it with 2 out of 3 in Evil Streets, 3 out of 5 with Devil's Five, 4 out of 4 with Gruesome Threesome. So I just said, let me make another movie. So in the 6 months we were having meetings, Pete, he didn't have one page of a script. In one day, I wrote a page and a half and cast 2 actors for the 4th episode. So I'm directing 2, but we won't talk about that because I'm still writing that. That'll be shot like November. We're shooting this other one August.
Okay. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the Indiegogo campaign and what that entails and kind of like what the timeline is looking at for you to make this film, get it prepared for release. So how's that all looking?
Yeah, so the Indiegogo went up last Saturday. It was a week ago. So we've got 23 days left if you count today, which I think counts as a day off. Unlike a Hollywood movie, Pete, you could never get involved on a movie like that. You couldn't have any kind of, not necessarily creative say, but you couldn't be part of it. Like they wouldn't let you share the experience. What I've done with my crowd fund is I've tried to make all the perks, it's kind of hard to have a new perk that someone else hasn't done over the life of crowdfunding. But what I've tried to do is make it, worthwhile anyone's interest. We have our different levels, and based on the level, every level, if you go higher than the first, you get everything before it. So, you've got, I think, the $75 perk. You get the Blu-ray, which will be exclusive for backers, exclusive Blu-ray, and you also get an access to see behind the scenes as we're filming, which will be interviews with cast and crew, behind the scenes footage. You can actually see makeup effects, storyboards. This is the first film in my almost 40-year career I've actually having storyboarded. I did that because the DP wanted it, and I thought it made sense. So I taught the storyboard artist how to think in anamorphic terms. So I had to tell her what a 35 millimeter anamorphic frame was versus a 50 versus a 75. It's the first movie that I've ever done where not only do I have a shooting script, which I've always done, but I have every lens length figured out beforehand. I don't know if other guys do that, but it's a 50, a 75. We're going to actually have multiple cameras if I feel that I want to do that kind of shooting. I usually don't like coverage because I like to move the camera a lot. So when you move the camera, you can't have another camera there that could get in the shot. So, there's a lot of, steady cam, drones, rack focusing, you're talking match cuts. I'm very visual, like, Carpenter, Russell Mulcahy, like Highlander. Yeah, but as far as the crowdfund, for perks, you can get the Blu-ray, you can get the VHS. I'll sign that, and the Blu-ray, obviously. We have a perk where you can get your name on the credits at the end credits. You could never do that on Hollywood. They
No.
wouldn't do that for you. So your name will actually be associated with the movie forever. We have a perk where you can either talk to me on Zoom, or you can have our Playboy playmate, Caitlin Jane, who's a beautiful, sexy woman, very serious actress. I cast her in Anomaly a couple years ago. So she's been training for 2 years. And I told her, I said, no one's going to take you seriously because you're a playmate. Let's prove them wrong. I'll tell you what, this woman has done more read-throughs with me than any other actor. She is totally ready. She's got a scene that's kind of going to use the aspect of the Playboy part, which I'm sure your viewers wouldn't mind, but she's going to surprise people. And this movie's not a sex film. It's not a soft core. It's a brutal horror film. So she told me, she goes, Terry, I get to be sexy and then I get to be kick ass. So it's got both aspects. But anyway, then there's, other things you guys could check out as far as getting tickets to the VIP premiere here in New York, where you could sit with Ron if he comes. Caitlin will definitely be here. The rest of the cast and crew, Melanie Portnoy. I'm pretty sure maybe their families might come. Maybe some of Mean Streaks members might come and their families. Who knows if that's Petrucci's, Mayon's, etc. So you could actually be there with the right perk. I've limited those perks, so it's not just a lot. You also have where you could be on the set as an extra in the movie, or you could just watch. And then we have our big perk, which is almost kind of what we really need. And that is, there's only one of those. And whoever takes that, if they do, will actually get profits from the life of this movie for the life of its run on every format it runs. It'll be an amount that I feel is fair to them in relation to the cast, crew, myself, and the cost of the film. And also, Pete, there's one other perk. I've called it the special perk. I'm open that if anyone has an idea and they want to contact me, if it's worth the film's while and what they want, I'm willing to talk about and maybe make a negotiated deal.
Very cool. And we're going to put a link down below where folks can go and check out the whole campaign and see all the different options and whatnot. Where, as far as locations for shooting the film, where are you looking to do this all?
So we're going to be filming. Part of the reason we're doing the campaign, probably I'd say it's the most important reason, is I scouted houses back in February, and we were trying to go northern New Jersey because my DP lives in Warwick, right above the state line. And I kind of wanted to be closer for him rather than be close for me. And a lot of my crew's New York City, Long Island, and maybe even Pennsylvania. So I was trying to get closer to those guys than even for me. And so we have a house that's in Sussex, New Jersey. It's 4,500 square feet. It's a George Washington house, meaning it has a middle part, has hallways going to two wings on the side. It's shaped like a U. And the way I wrote my script, I use all 4 levels, including the roof. And a lot of houses I couldn't get on the roof safely. And this house I can. It's got 2 acres of land. It's facing a mountain. It has a dead end where we could film our first scene, which I don't want to give it away, but was kind of hot, so to speak. And we wouldn't have to worry about interference from people driving down the road and stuff. The town doesn't need a permit. A cop lives on one side, and the person already knows we might be filming a movie on the other. His wife is dead. He has no children and one dog. So he actually could go on one side of the unit. He said, "You'll never see me while you film." He
That's
has no
perfect.
time limits. So it's like a perfect location. But if we don't raise enough money, we're not going to be able to get that location because he told me he won't give it to me for free. So that's probably the meat of our crowd fund is to get that place. And I do have backup locations, but I hope we get that one because oh my God, it's perfect.
That's a nice area because I know it well because Warwick, New York is also Orange County. I live in Orange County, so that's like the furthest town near the Jersey border. So I know that whole area over there. It's beautiful. That's you picked a great location.
It's great, and the house is huge, and it's got big basement where we have scenes in the basement. You might think Night of the Living Dead, little homage to that, so to speak. And we've got the roof. I'm still deciding if I want to go on it, though I can get on it. It's facing the backyard, but there's a scene that may be better if we shoot at the front because of what happens at the end of the movie, which is this scene that maybe some of your listeners could be included on if they end up doing the right perk. And by the way, you may have some people there that are some known people that are going to be extras as well. Just think of some of the names I've mentioned, some of the bands, you may have them as extras as well. So that could be cool. You might even be right there on the set with some heavy metal royalty.
There you go. That always sounds like fun, right?
Yes, yes.
So what's the time frame where you think this film will that you're hoping will wrap up and be ready and available to be viewed by the masses? What are you kind of looking at as far as the time frame?
I think to give a realistic time frame, so my shooting dates are August 10th, 11th, and 17th and 18th, 2 weekends. We're shooting 4 days. But you have the other two movies that the two
Yeah.
other directors are making, and then I have to make the second film, which I believe I'm going to shoot to do that in November. So I think for post-production, putting everything together, color correction, all that stuff,
Oh,
mixing it, sound, music, I
oh,
think I've given on the crowd fund, I've put April. I think April of next year gives us enough time where we could make a good movie, put it all together. And the people that crowdfund this movie, they're going to see those things that we promise. The VHS, the Blu-rays, and while we're filming, they're going to have access to the behind the scenes if they take that perk or above. So they'll be able to see it happening as live as it goes.
cool. All right. So the beginning of the end, that's the upcoming film by Terry
Yeah, and it's
Wickham.
actually without the. It's just beginning of the end.
Oh, beginning of the end. Okay. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
beginning of the end.
And by the way, the reason I'm calling that is because I feel that in my movie story, the AI could be our beginning of the
Beginning of
end.
the end.
So
Yeah.
that's really what it's all about. And I think if I remember that, I'm sure you're going to show the thing, but I think it's like igg.com/me/beginning of the end. I think that's the URL, something like that simple. But if you go to your YouTube, obviously my YouTube, Man Ray Pictures at LLC on Facebook, you can find it. It's everywhere.
Yeah, we'll have the link.
Instagram.
Yeah, the link will be posted down in the comments. I'll have it pinned down there, so and additional information on the film and the campaign, so folks can go check it out. And hopefully, folks will be interested in taking part in the campaign, so they can be involved to a certain extent in the creation of the movie. So,
Absolutely. All I can say is I appreciate you having me on the show, Pete. It's a real honor. I
my dog
respect.
is very interested in the film, as you can tell.
I really respect what you do, both for the metal world, the rock world, progressive world, the horror film world. We're two of a kind in terms of that. And like I said to your viewers out there, if you're a horror fan, this is something that you would really sink your teeth into. It's made by a horror fan, but who happens to be a serious filmmaker. And we're going to try to deliver the goods. We're going to try to really make you scared out of your pants. That's our goal. And it's really about suspense. But I will say this about the two other directors, just lastly, they're not making the same type of films. The second film is more of a Cronenberg body-esque
Oh,
horror
body of
film.
horror, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the third film is more of like a Friday the 13th sleepaway camp out in the woods, kids having sex and
Classic one, yeah.
drugs, and then a bunch of violence goes down. And then I think the last film, what I'm early writing, I'm just going to try to make a real, like, just a brutal kind of um, payoff of all of them mixed together. That's what I'm
Okay.
going for.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And Chris Allen would be happy with the shirt you're wearing today.
Oh yeah, I love it. I didn't realize he said his friend makes his shirt. I didn't know that. His friend is actually the guy I bought it from Chiller at, and I didn't know that. I got one of John Carpenter's The Thing too. By the way, it's double-sided. Take a look at this.
Oh, very nice. Yep.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's cool, cool.
Nice. Yeah, gotta love Dawn of the Dead, right? A classic.
One of my favorites.
So beginning of the end, Terry Wickham and crew coming soon. All the information will be down in the comments below. Terry, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you telling our audience about this exciting new project you're doing. And visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Thanks for watching this special edition of The Monsters Den. For Terry Wickham, I'm Pete Pardo. Thanks. See you all soon Thursday with the rest of the crew. Till then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.